Water tank time. Some days go well and some days don't. I opened the box of this water tank, brand new undamaged box, and this is what the valve looked like, the garden hose outlet, which wouldn't matter until I have to drain it in 15 years. But anyways, I called up their numbers on hold for 10 minutes, got a guy. He asked me, did you install the tank? I said no. Well, then bring it back. I'm not friggin' bringing it back. Just give me an RA, return authorization number. I'll get a new valve. It's $4.68. Can't do that. Tank's not installed yet. I said, well, it will be in 10 minutes. Son of a gun. Anyways, went up, bought another tank, which I need a spare anyways. Put the valve on. And you can't get a garden hose on it anyways. And I'm not sure if I got the threads in right. Can't tell because it's packed in there with foam insulation. And then when you put the top fitting in, you're supposed to solder your piece of pipe in first. So I soldered the T on, and after I get the T soldered on, I realized I hadn't soldered the bottom part. Son of a gun. So I soldered it. The reason you don't solder it when it's in the tank is because there's a dip tube in here that brings the cold water to the bottom, a plastic tube, and if you heat it up, the plastic tube falls off, and then your cold water goes at the top and comes up over there. So anyways, I soldered it. I should have put the vice grip on it. I could have locked a vice grip on it to dissipate the heat, but I did it as quickly as I could, and I sprayed it with cold water as fast as I can. And now I am about to solder this back fitting. So, let's see how I do here. So far I'm scoring 0 for 2, maybe. I won't know until I fill up the water under pressure at the bottom, got cross-threaded, and at the top, got melted, which I won't even know until someone uses it because the water comes out hot for a minute and then it reverts to cold. Because the dip tube is gone. It doesn't dip the cold water to the bottom. Dum-diddy-dum-dum. It's easy to change, just gotta dismantle it and get another dip tube or make one. In case you're wondering what the brush has, it has acid flux, which sort of controls the bond of the lead solder. If you don't use flux, it just gets oxidized. The flux keeps it clean. You gotta keep on putting flux on as you're soldering. It's gotta be drenched in flux. And I don't normally use copper anymore, I use PEX, but since this is already copper, I just leave it the way it is. Then you polish up your fittings when you're done. Take off the solder acid flux. There. Now, after soldering 1, 2 joints, using some Teflon tape here, 1, 2, 3, 4 joints, one of which I soldered at the wrong time, I can turn the water back on. So I've removed the valve handle because one wrong move, drag her up. One wrong move and you turn that handle on and it sprays water at 95 pounds pressure. That's a lot of pressure because we're at the low point from where the water comes from. The lower you are, the higher the pressure. So I take the handle off, otherwise, oh look, new floors. It's the gusher. There we go. New floors. And the water pressure is real high here. It won't take too long for this tank to fill up. 28 gallons, 30, 60, 110 liters. Uh-oh. This isn't supposed to be leaking. Why the hell is the overflow valve leaking? Oh, because it got smashed. I never, ever have had an overflow valve leak, except when they're 15 years old. This water tank got dropped. That's been damaged. Yep. I gotta freaking take this thing off now. Son of a gun. Yep, it's pushed in. Wonder if the tank got damaged. Don't freaking tell me they threw this thing off the truck. That's why that valve was broken. This thing got busted too. Yep. Smashed. What a waste of time. And I checked the box. There was no damage on the box. You never take a damaged hot water tank box. Friday night. TGIF. Luckily this isn't someone waiting to move into their apartment or waiting for their hot water to be turned on. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know why that wouldn't close. But you saw it dripping. Drip, drip, drip. PIA. Luckily I have a hardware store in my maintenance room. I just called up the store to see if my favorite manager is there. They had a torch set that someone had stolen a part of, and they were offering it for 20 bucks off, but I know he can do better. There was a roll of wire there that someone had undone, and it was a big mess, and I could get that cheaper to make up for this friggin' stupidity here of a dropped hot water tank. Now it's going to leak water all over the place. Yep, here comes the flood. Luckily it's a concrete floor. Did you know you could change the elements for the overflow valve, the blow-off valve, the over-temp valve without draining the tank? Yep, you could do it. Because the water comes out at half speed because the air has to go back in to replace it. So I'm at that stage where I gotta go from the side. And if you rent to people on social assistance, you gotta put a pipe on that so it splashes on the ground and doesn't splash on them. Even if it's in the basement, it doesn't matter. Hot water tanks have to have an extension tube. So, yeah, splash. Life of a landlord. 8:30 at night. A friend of mine in East Texas was just telling me he was a property manager a long time ago, but he had 3 kids to raise. I don't have any kids, just a bunch of tenants that are babies. There it goes. Bombs away. Full pressure. My first video. Sure hope that valve on the bottom isn't leaking. I couldn't tell if I was cross-threading it or not. I took it out, put it back in, you just can't tell. It's stuffed full of foam. Can't even see if it's leaking because it would leak inside the tank, and I guess I'll just turn the water off for tonight. How's my solder joints? Sometimes they leak. I'm just a mediocre plumber. I'm probably a mediocre landlord. I did rebuild the bottom of this cabinet. Put the piece of plywood in, I notched it so it fit in the corners, and I put it on top of the groove, and I put a screw through the face and cracked it because I didn't pre-drill it. Did my best, but at least it's back in one piece for what's left of it. Not much left here. And I aimed it so that the elements are accessible. I've seen elements facing here and facing there. It's just easier to rotate it so these things line up for ease of assembly as opposed to ease of service. Needs fluid film. Yep, smashed it. See that ring on the top should be flat, not recessed. Smash. Dropped it off the truck. Too bad I didn't get it for 50 bucks from a guy at the bar, tavern. Oh, it fell off the back of the truck. Well, this one did, and I paid full friggin' price, $339 plus tax. At least it's not leaking. Alright, I'm going to turn the water off for tonight, and I'm going to call it a night. But I do have to go plaster an apartment, just 5 minutes of work. Alright, TGIF, got some wiring to do as well. That's enough. Time is... Where did I put my cell phone? In my pocket. Time is... Oh, up here. 8:35.